Hello, I'm Matujima and you're watching Hornbill TV. The pandemic notably outshined almost everything that happened in the country in 2021. However, politics and politicians still stuck to their true nature and did not allow these unprecedented times to get in the way of creating news. Several political developments, some good, some bad too, placed this past year. Let's have a look at a few. Firstly, India, which has been at the forefront of the year-long efforts to reform to the UNSC Security Council, began its 8th tenure for 2021 to 2022 term as a non-permanent member in the United Nations Security Council on 4th January 2021. The ceremony was held to formalize the term permanent representative of India to the United Nations. Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti said that India will be a voice for the developing world and it will not shy away from raising its voice against the common enemies of humanity like terrorism. India will be chairing 3 key subsidiary bodies of Taliban Sanctions Committee, Counter-Terrorism Committee for 2022 and Libya Sanctions Committee. India Foreign Secretary Harsh Sringla also participated in an open debate titled Challenges on Maintaining Peace and Security in Fragile Contexts. India promises to speak out against terrorism and will offer solutions in matter of international peace and security. India advocates for a permanent UN Security Council seat for African continent and has condemned the cowardly terror attack in the Niger that killed over 100 people.
The United Nations has completed 75 years of its existence, and so has the Security Council. India comes into the Security Council as the largest democracy, representing 1/6 of humanity, and with a very strong commitment to reformed multilateralism, rule of law, a fair and equitable international system, and to peace, security, and development. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we stand united as one, bound by our ethos of democracy, pluralism, and commitment to fundamental rights. We will use our tenure to bring human-centric and inclusive solutions to matters of international peace and security. India will be a voice for the developing world.
In 2021, India, Norway, Kenya, Ireland and Mexico joined non-permanent members Estonia, Niger, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Tanzania and Vietnam, and the 5 permanent members China, France, Russia, UK and the US in the Council. The presidency of the Council is held by each of the members in turn for 1 month, following the English alphabetical order of the member states' names. High-level General Assembly session in September, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said that as a Security Council member, India will not hesitate to raise its voice against the enemies of humanity, including terrorism, and will always speak in support of peace, security and prosperity. Modi had also asserted that reform in the responses, processes and in the very character of the United Nations was the need of the hour, as he questioned that for how long will India, the world's largest democracy and home to 1.3 billion people, be kept out of the decision-making structures of the United Nations. India, the endorsed candidate from the Asia-Pacific states, won 184 votes out of 192 ballot cast in the elections in June for the 5 non-permanent seats of the Security Council. Secondly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched nationwide vaccination drive against COVID-19 on January 16 via video conferencing. In the first phase, government and private sector healthcare workers, including integrated child development services, workers will receive the vaccine. Covaxin, India's first indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, is developed by Bharat Biotech in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research, National Institute of Virology.
वैक्सीनेशन कार्यक्रम का औपचारिक प्रारंभ करने की कृपा करें।
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः।
India crossed a major milestone on Thursday, October 21st, when the members of coronavirus disease COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country crossed 100 crore. The milestone was achieved half an hour after 10 a.m. To cross the historic figure. The government has planned a number of events to mark the occasion, including launching of a song and display of the country's largest tricolour at the Red Fort in Delhi. The inoculation program has been speeding up since its launch, recording 25 million vaccinations in a day on September 17, which translated to 15.62 lakh doses per hour or 26,000 doses per minute of 434 doses every second. Despite the high number of COVID-19 vaccination, the opposition parties have questioned the government about how it can fulfill its promise of administering both doses of the vaccine to all the eligible adults in the country by December 31st. The Congress said the number of eligible adults is 95 crore and there's still a long way to go before all of them receive both the doses of the vaccine. Hozabale was elected as the Sarkaryawa Secretary of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak on 20th March 2021. He was until then the Shah Karwa Joint Secretary of the Sangh. At the two-day annual meeting of the Akhil Bharatiya Pratinidhi Sabha, the Sangh's highest decision-making body that began on Friday, 19th March. He was Shah Sarkarwa of RSS since 2009, RSS tweeted. Huzabale replaced the 73-year-old Suresh Bhaiyaji Joshi, who was Sarkaryawa for 4 terms, with each term having 3 years. Sarkaryawa post is considered as Sangh's number 2 in command after Sarsang Chalak, chief of RSS, which is currently held by the Mohan Bhagat. Though ABPS is an annual meeting held at different places, but every third year it is held at RSS headquarters in Nagpur as election of Sarkaryawa will take place. However, it was shifted to Bengaluru this time in the wake of surging COVID-19 cases in Maharashtra. Born in Surat in Shivamoga, Hozabala, aged 65 years, a postgraduate in English literature, has grown in Sangh, which he joined in 1968. He was initially associated with the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, student wing of the RSS, and became an organizer in RSS. Gujarat Assembly on Thursday, 1st April, passed the Freedom of Religion Act 2003 amendment bill that seeks to penalize forcible of fraudulent religious conversion by marriage or love jihad, bringing in stringent provisions against forcible conversion through marriage or allurement. The bill has provisions for 3 to 10 years in the jail and a fine of up to rupees 5 lakh if the accused is found guilty. The bill amends a 2003 act and seeks to curb the emerging trend in which women are lured to marriage for the purpose of religious conversion, as per its statement of object. The Gujarat Freedom of Religion Act 2003 deals with religious conversion through allurement, force, or by mispresentation or by any other fraudulent means. The Gujarat Amendment Bill says it is necessary to prohibit forcible conversion by marriage or by getting a person married or by aiding a person to get married, and hence the amendment is being carried out in the law. During the marathon debate on the bill, Congress legislator Imran Khandewala, while opposing the amendment, tore a copy of the bill and subsequently apologized to it. Opposition party members opposed the amendment, calling the PJP's plank communal plank, while senior Congress legislator Gyasuddin Sheikh even produced over a dozen marriage certificates or affidavits of Hindu boys marrying Muslim girls. BJP's strongest man in the Northeast, 52-year-old Himanta Biswa Sarma, was sworn in as Assam Chief Minister on May 10. The BJP Legislative Party on Sunday unanimously elected him as the leader of the party in the House in presence of BJP Central Observer Narendra Singh Tomar, ending a 6-day-long period of speculations over the CM's face. His partners in NDA, Ahom Gana Parishad and United People's Party Liberal later announced their support to Sarma. Tomar announced Sarma's name after outgoing Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal proposed his name at the Legislative Party meeting, which was seconded by the PJP State President Ranjit Kumar Das. Earlier in the day before going to the Legislative Party meeting, Sonowal submitted his resignation before Governor Professor Jagdish Mukhi. PJP Parliamentary Board on Saturday decided Sarma's name and Sundhia's Legislative Party meeting was only a formality. The election results were declared on May 2nd, but it started the debate over who will be the CM because, unlike 2016, BJP did not name a chief ministerial candidate in this election. In 2016, PM Narendra Modi himself had announced Sonowal's name as the CM candidate, but the process of formation of the new government in the state and naming the chief minister had to kept on hold by BJP central leadership because of the Bengal situation that had arisen out of the unprecedented post-poll violence on May 3rd. Naga rushed to West Bengal, and without his presence, the parliamentary board, which would have taken the decision on the CM, could not be convened. After the announcement of the results of the 2021 West Bengal Legislative Assembly election, declaring that the incumbent Trinamool Congress government would be returning to power for the third time, violence broke out in some parts of West Bengal. In reality, it was continuation of the violence which took place across the state during the election. 6 BJP workers were killed during the attacks by the workers of the ruling Trinamool Congress. The governor summoned the Director of General Police and Kolkata Police Commissioner to discuss the situation. By 4th May, around 11 opposition party workers were killed by the ruling party goons. The CPI-M and Congress alleged the workers had also been attacked by the TMC. By 5th May, 5 supporters of the TMC were killed in post-poll violence. Union Ministry of Home Affairs sought a report from the government of West Bengal over incidents of post-election brutality against opposition political workers in the state. On 5th May, after taking oath as the Chief Minister for a third term, Mamata Banerjee reinstated state police officers who were transferred by the Election Commission. On May 10, a 5-judge special bench of Calcutta High Court expressed satisfaction over the action taken by the newly formed Mamata Banerjee government in Bengal to restore normality after post-results violence in pockets of the state. Many women, including a minor girl, were allegedly raped by the TMC workers as the family members voted against them. Allegedly, a 60-year-old woman was raped and her daughter-in-law was beaten up by the TMC goons. Their account moved to Supreme Court. BJP alleged that their workers had been tortured by the TMC activists of Bhakapur constituency in Purba Medinipur. But it was later learned that in reality, TMC supporters were oppressed by the BJP workers under the influence of Rabindranath Meity, BJP MLA of the said constituency. A huge crowd attended TMC's rally in Bhakanpur on 10 July to protest against the BJP's reign of terror. Francis Hogan, a former Facebook employee, revealed before the United States Senate that RSS users, groups and pages had used Facebook to spread violence and communal unrest across West Bengal by promoting anti-Muslim narratives on the platform. Two-term MLA from Khatima in Uttarakhand, Pushkar Singh Dhami, was sworn in as the 11th Chief Minister of State along with an 11-member cabinet on Sunday in Dehradun. 45, the youngest Chief Minister yet of Uttarakhand, retained the entire team of his predecessors, Tirat Singh Rawat. Rawat quit on Friday evening, ostensibly on being unable to get elected to the Uttarakhand Assembly within the constitutionally stipulated deadline of 6 months from the date he took over. The only change that Dhami made to this cabinet was to give all ministers a promotion to cabinet rank. The ministers sworn were Satpal Maharaj, Harak Singh Rawat, Bashinder Bhagat, Yashpal Arya, Bishan Singh Chufal, Shubhut Uniyal, Arvind Pandey, Ganesh Joshi, Dan Singh Rawat, Rekha Arya and Yatishwaranand. Arya, Dan Singh, Ravadhan Yatishwaranand, who were ministers of state in Tira Rawat's cabinet, have been elevated to cabinet rank. Earlier in the day, Dhami met with senior party leaders and his cabinet colleagues, Satpal Maharaj, at his residence with a bouquet of flowers amid reports that the senior leader and a few other MLAs of the BJP were sulking since Saturday as they were not happy with his election as the new leader of the BJP legislative party in Uttarakhand. He also paid courtesy visits to his predecessors, Tirat Singh Rawat, Trivendra Singh Rawat and B.C. Kanduri, at their residences. He takes over the reign at a time when Uttarakhand has just a few months to go for the assembly polls due early next year. Dhami is not only the youngest chief minister of the state but also an appointment from Kumaon, the top post. He had worked his way in the BJP hierarchy, first in student politics with the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad the student wing of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh in 1990. He was the officer on special duty to his political mentor and former Chief Minister Bhagat Singh Koshyari when the latter held the post he is holding now. Modi government on 6 July announced new Ministry of Cooperation for strengthening the cooperative movement in the country. This comes in the backdrop of a cabinet expansion exercise that is expected to take place on Wednesday evening. This new ministry will provide a separate administrative, legal and policy framework for strengthening the cooperative movement in the country. The government said in a press note, adding that it will help deepen cooperatives as a true people-based movement reaching up to grassroots. The ministry will work to streamline processes for ease of doing business for cooperatives and enable development of multi-state cooperatives. In the country, a cooperative-based economic development model is very relevant where each member works with a spirit of responsibility, the press release mentioned. It said that the centre has signalled its deep commitment to community-based developmental partnership and added that the creation of a separate ministry also fulfills the announcement made by the Finance Minister in the Union Budget. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expanded his Union Cabinet on 7th July, bringing in 36 new faces and promoting 7 existing ministers. As many as 12 ministers were dropped from the new cabinet, including high-profile ones like Ravi Shankar Prasad and Harsh Vardhan. This is the first cabinet reshuffle since PM Modi assumed charge for a second term in May 2019. 43 ministers were sworn in at a ceremony held at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, including 15 as cabinet ministers and 28 as ministers of state. Former IAS officer Ashwini Vaishnav is the new railways and IT minister, while Mansukh Mandavia has been made the health minister in the new union cabinet. Jyotiraditya Scindia will be taking charge of the Civil Aviation Ministry, while Kiran Rijiju will be the new Law Minister. Anurag Thakur will hold charge of the IT Ministry and Dharmendra Pradhan will now hold charge of the Education Ministry. Nagaland government has turned opposition-less with the ruling People's Democratic Alliance and the Naga People's Front joining hands in the interest of finding a solution to the decades-old Naga political issue. Henceforth, the new dispensation will be known as the Nagaland United Government. The parties inked a pact formalizing a move that was initiated last month when the lone opposition NPF agreed to work together with the government with the only aim of putting up a united front to help push the peace process forward. The decision to accept the opposition-less united government had been taken unanimously by the primary PDA partners, namely NDPP and PJP, including 2 independent MLAs supporting the PDA government, and the modalities to include the principal opposition party, that is NPF, into the government. Henceforth, the new nomenclature of the government shall be called Nagaland United Government, the resolution said. It was felt by the political parties that to receive a peaceful solution to the Naga political issue, the efforts and sincerity of the elected representatives were crucial, and unity amongst them has to be paramount, so as to expedite and achieve the common goal of a peaceful solution to the Naga political issue. Setting themselves 5 terms of the agreement, they said they would aim at promoting the Naga peace talks, they would appeal to all Naga political groups to make serious efforts towards unity and reconciliation, ensure unity of its members in the Legislative Assembly on the issue, and make all possible endeavours to achieve the objective, encourage and impress upon the centre and all the negotiating parties to bring about the solution to a logical conclusion at the earliest. Stand together towards achieving the goal of acceptable settlement. Signatories to the resolution include Chief Minister Nipirio, former Chief Minister and Leader of the Opposition T.R. Ziliang, and PJP President Temjin Imna Along, among 8 others. Signed between August 11 and 13, the resolution was released on Monday. This is the second time the Nagaland will have an opposition-less government. In 2015, 8 Congress MLAs joined the ruling Democratic Alliance of Nagaland led by the NPF under the Chief Minister and present opposition leader in the Assembly, T.R. Ziliang. The Congress MLA later joined the NPF. The talks with the NSA and IM started in August 1997 and the outfit signed a framework agreement with the centre on August 3, 2015. On the other hand, the working committee of 6 Naga national political groups and NPGs inked a separate agreed position with the centre on November 17, 2017. The talks, however, hit a roadblock in early 2020 after the NSC and IM refused to continue the discussion with the interlocutor and Nagaland Governor R.N. Ravi. The NSC and IM has been stubborn and its demand for a separate constitution and a flag for the Nagas, which the centre is not willing to concede. Besides, the other sore points in the talks has been the NSC and IM's demand for merger of all Naga inhabited areas in Assam, Arunachal Pradesh and Manipur with Nagaland.
In a day of high political drama, the Congress High Command forced the resignation of Punjab Chief Minister Amrinder Singh on 18 September ahead of a Congress Legislative Party meeting convened by the AICC. The final decision of the new Chief Minister was left to the party President Sonia Gandhi. Captain Amrinder Singh handed over his resignation to the Governor Banewaralia Purol ahead of CLP meeting, widely seen as a move to remove him, citing continued humiliation by Congress leadership over the past 2 months. Captain Amrinder said he would decide his future political course of action in consultation with his supporters who had stood by him for over 5 decades.
President Navjot Singh Sidhu, Captain Amrinder dubbed him as an anti-national, dangerous, unstable and incompetent. He added that he would fight any move to make the former cricketer the Chief Minister, tooth and nail. Subsequently, following his resignation, Amrinder Singh formed his political party Punjab Lok Congress. The Bharatiya Janata Party, former Congress leader Amrinder Singh and Sukhdev Singh Tindsa, Shiromani Akali Dal will together contest Punjab Assembly polls to be held next year. The official announcement was made by Union Minister and PJP election in charge for Punjab, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, after an hour-long meeting among leaders of all the 3 parties of Union Home Minister Amit Shah's official residence here. Punjab Congress President Navjot Singh Sidhu on Sunday, 19 September, lauded Congress' move to replace Amrinder Singh with Charanjit Singh Channi, who will be the first Dalit CM of Punjab. A day after Captain Amrinder Singh stepped down, Charanjit Singh Channi was chosen as the next Punjab Chief Minister. Channi, who will be the first Dalit CM of Punjab, took oath at 11 a.m. on a Monday. Channi was the leader of opposition in Vidyan Sabha during the previous SAD-PJP regime. The Jamkar Sahib MLA was inducted as the minister in the first cabinet and was allotted the portfolios of technical education and industrial training employment, generating and training, and tourism and culture affairs. He has been vocal against Amrinder for not paying attention to issues raised by party leaders.
Apologizing to the country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday announced the repeal of the 3 contentious farm laws against which farmers mainly from Punjab and Haryana have been protesting at the border of Delhi for nearly a year. The Prime Minister chose the occasion of Guru Nanak Jayanti to announce the repeal of the 3 farm laws: the Farmers Empowerment and Protection, Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Service Act, the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Production, Promotion and Facilitation Act, and the Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020.
By the Union Home Ministry, the farmers protesting at the border of the national capital have finally decided to end the year-long movement. This comes in the wake of the centre accepting all demands put forward by the protesting farmers, including the withdrawal of the all agitation-related cases and compensation to the families of farmers who had died during the course of the movement against the contentious agricultural laws. The Samyukt Kisan Morcha, the umbrella body of the farmers' union spearheading the protests, had said last evening that the 14-month agitation will be called off at 12 p.m. but only after they receive the final copy of the government's revised proposal accepting their demands. The consensus to call off the farmers' protest was reached after the central government agreed to take back all cases registered during the farm agitation and for stubble burning. According to the protesting farmers, the government had also assured that it will table the Electricity Amendment Bill only after consultation with the SKM or relevant farmer unions.
Since November 26, 2020, farmers mostly from Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh have been protesting at Delhi's borders, demanding the repeal of the laws. After several rounds of talks between the government and farmer unions failed to end the protests, the Supreme Court stayed the implementation of 3 farm laws. PM Modi also announced the formation of a committee comprising representatives of the central government, state governments, farmers, agricultural scientists and agricultural economists to ensure decision on various issues related to agriculture, including making the minimum support price are more effective and transparent. Voices against the brutal Armed Forces Special Powers Act 1958 were never thin in Northeast India. Years back, Manipur witnessed massive uprising against the draconian law that empowers the security personnel engaged in counter-insurgency operations to act according to their conveniences in disturbed area with all impunity from the civilian courts. T. Manurama Devi and Sharmila Irom emerged as almost deities in the Métis society during the uproarious anti-AFSPA situation in the region. Lately, the issue became alive and flashier with the incident of Oting village in Nagaland, where 14 civilians lost their lives under the complicity of AFSPA. From local villagers to state-level organizations, northeastern to national and international institutions have now come forward raising voices against the 6-decade-old Act, urging its urgent repeal, and some putting a unique challenge to the union government in New Delhi for implementing the law in terror-stricken central Indian provinces.
The Centre has decided to institute a 5-member committee to look into the withdrawal of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act from Nagaland. Chief Minister Repeal said on Sunday, weeks after 13 civilians were killed by the army at Oting in the state's Mon district. According to news agency PTI, Vivek Joshi, who is Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India, will head the 5-member committee, while Additional Secretary in the Union Home Ministry, Piyush Goyal, will be the member secretary of the panel. Other members of the committee are Chief Secretary and DGP of Nagaland, Inspector General of Assam Rifle North, and a representative of the Central Reserve Police Force (CRPF). PTI quoted a government official as saying, on Sunday, a joint statement from the Deputy Chief Minister Y. Patan and leader of Naga People's Front Legislator Party T.R. Ziliang said that the panel has been directed to submit its recommendations within 45 days. The committee will submit its report within 45 days, and withdrawal of disturbed area and AFSPA from Nagaland will be based on recommendations of the committee, the statement said.
That's all we have for all the major political events that occurred this year in India. Thank you for watching Hornbill TV.